All right, good afternoon. Let's get started. So, welcome to LAN 220 or Linux class, Red Hat Linux specifically. So, I'll be your instructor. My name is Kevin Vaccaro. I teach the security classes. I'm in charge of the security program here at Moraine. We're going to learn Linux. And why is it so important? Because there's lots of jobs in Linux and it's used heavily in a lot of different industries. And to know Linux is to love Linux. It's an operating system that you really, really need to learn. Um, Even if you're not in security, it's the kernel of most cars. Entertainment systems in the car, central consoles, those are running on Linux kernels. You see a lot of it running all over the place. Understanding it and using it will make it much better for you in the long run. Let me tell you. Okay. Linux is a fun operating system. This course specifically focuses on Red Hat. The reason Red Hat is because Red Hat gives us the curriculum for free. You can actually do the entire course and take the Red Hat certified system exam. However, if you are going to do it, just note there is no multiple choice questions on that one because it is a hands-on exam. It's very difficult. But it's a very much, they give you a list of tasks to do and you get so many hours to complete them. It's one of the more difficult exams in Linux you can take. Or you can go in and do something like a Linux Plus or something like that if you like multiple choice questions. But Linux has been around for a while, and we're going to talk a little bit about its history. Let's talk about the class, though. So let's talk about. So usually, there's a lot of material. I do 2 chapters or 2 sections a week, and I'll show you how to get the curriculum. Even if you haven't got it yet, I'm going to walk you through to make sure everybody gets their hands. Curriculum's free. The labs will be on NetLab. I'll go through that as well. But you can see every week you'll have two labs to do, and a quiz. The quizzes are inside of the of Canvas. They are not the quizzes that are on the Red Hat curriculum. And the labs are actually done on NetLab. And you will be screenshotting me the history of what you are doing, and I'll show you what I mean. So you can see it's pretty aggressive. It goes through the whole semester, but we're covering 2 full two full parts, RH124 and RH134, which are System Admin 1 and 2. That's the entire curriculum somebody would pay several grand for at Red Hat to take the curriculum. This is actually the real curriculum they use with their commercial customers. It's no different. It hasn't been altered whatsoever. So you can see every week we'll have a midterm, we'll have a final. There is no book. You don't have to buy a book. We only get it through Red Hat exclusively, and I'll show you how to get it. Your labs are 40% of your grade. Your chapter quizzes are 20%. Your midterms 20%, and the final is 20%. So you can see labs are important to do. The more you become familiar with it, the better you'll be at Linux. One of the things to learn operating systems, you really have to play with them. You can't really read about them. You need to really play with them. Okay. I'm pretty straightforward. The classes will be recorded every week. I'll go through the labs every week, and you will do the labs the same way. You turn them in, um, and I'll show you how I want them turned in. Every week, you'll have a final lab to do from the curriculum that they walk you through, and once you do that, you turn it in, and you're good to go. All right. So there's no surprises with the class. Just make sure you're doing the labs every week and you're studying. All right. The more you play with Linux, the more you'll enjoy it. You can install it, a version of Linux into any virtual machine, but we're providing the entire NetLab environment for it. Okay. So what it does is this is for Red Hat Certified System Admin. It is a cool certification, but you really, really gotta be good with your hands-on with Linux to do it. Okay. So that's basically the course. We're going to do a lot of lab. Every week will be lab. Won't be a lot of lecture, just a lot of lab work. I'm going to be working with you as I do the lab. I'll explain commands that you'll be doing as well. And as you see, there's quizzes every week. Okay. Um, I'm going to be, bugging you if you're not getting your stuff done because we really do need to get it done Time goes by pretty quickly. If you run into a problem, just let me know. Better to tell me now than later. Okay. Even though this class is recorded, you go, I'll get back to it. You'd be quite surprised how labs stack up if you're doing 2 a week. Okay. So let me first make sure everybody's on the same page. So I will be putting all class recordings in a section called class recordings. So as I record the class in Camtasia, I will upload it to YouTube and my private channel, and then I will publish the link here for you to watch. In case you miss, you can just rewatch the recording. We are going to use NetLab, so some of you may or may have not used NetLab before. NetLab is our primary lab environment. You click here to go to the site. How you log in is I've loaded, unless you registered late, I had the system admin load all your email addresses up here and a default password. Now, if you've already had an account, it is your previous password that you've signed up in NetLab with. It's not a different one. All right, so you should always put the first part of your email address, not the whole email address. So if you're like mine is Vaccaro, I would put that in there. I wouldn't put the @ symbol or anything else. That is my login. I have a particular one because I'm an instructor. It's a little odd. It's got my K in there. Then you put in the password. If you've never used a system, your password will be the word password and the numbers 1, 2, 3. So let me say that again. Because I get quite a few questions on that. So your password so when you log in, all right, it is your email address, first part, email address before the @ sign only. So nothing after the @ sign. Okay, and your password, if you've never used it, your default password is password 1, 2, 3, just like that. Okay, if you used it before, it'll be whatever you set your former password to. If you don't remember, just let me know and I'll reset it to the default password. Okay, it's not a problem. So you'll need to be able to get into NetLab. That's how you get in. It'll have you change your password the first time you go in if you have a default password. Okay, so step 1, make sure you have that. Now, to get your Red Hat curriculum, you go to, a lot of you have been doing it because I get the request and I have to authorize it. You register. Once you register and I approve it, you go to the Red Hat web store. Okay, and you put in whatever you registered as, so your email and the password you set up as. So when I approve it, it'll be whatever you set your email address. Oops, I can't remember my own passwords. It's one of the two. And you go in. So your registration page, then you go to this web store. That's step 2. In the web store, okay, so once you've got the registration link and I approve it, and you'll get an email, it's approved, you're going to the web store. Okay, this is the Red Hat web store. You're looking for System Admin 1 and 2. So it's Red Hat Enterprise Linux. And you can see System 1 and System 2. We're using version 8. So you're going to click here. You're going to click on Participant Guide and English. Here is what you get. It's an HTML. It's absolutely free. So you're going to just take one. Don't choose the ebook because they'll charge you $50. Okay, so you basically add that to your cart. I've already got it, so they won't let me do it again. And you hit continue, and what happens is they will give you a code. Okay, after you complete this transaction, you will receive a code. That code is what you're going to need. It will be in this list of things. Okay, so make sure once you continue, mine will bounce because I've already ordered it once. All right, so there it is. It's order placed. And then you go to payment options. It costs you nothing. And once you submit the order, you're going to get a code. Okay, they won't send me another one because I've already used my one allotment for now. All right, so once you get it, you only can order one copy for free. You submit the order. It's good for 6 months. Once you submit the order, you'll get a code. The code will appear at the bottom. I'm going to try it. I know it's going to bounce, but hey. Oh, they let me do it. I'm surprised. All right, so you get a code at the bottom. It's 6 months from date of redemption. This is the code you will need, whatever your license code is. Okay? Once you have that code, you go to step 3. Okay? So I'm going back to my page here. Go back to my, so step 1 is to register. Once you register, I'll get the form. Once you do this registration, I'll approve it. Go to the Rev Store. You get System Admin 1 and System Admin 2, the second one underneath. So once you get that, go ahead and also order. So I got an extra key, which I'm going to keep for myself in case I forget. And you go and get also System Admin 2. Put a note. It's very slow, so don't be surprised. It's very, very slow. That's my extra key. All right. So you go continue shopping, and you want to get same thing, Red Hat Enterprise 2. You want System Admin 2, and you want Participant Guide and English. And you go ahead and order the same way, and they'll give you a code. Keep those codes. Those codes are important. Once you have those codes, you then go to step 3. You go to Red Hat Learn, and you log in. Okay, so once you log in, this is Red Hat Learn. Okay, you'll have a dashboard like this. I've already logged into Red Hat Learn. You add new course, and you put your code in there. Once you do that, the curriculum will be installed. You should have System Admin 1 and System Admin 2. If you get both license codes, that'll get you set up for the rest of the semester. Okay, so you go to My Courses. Once you add your new course, you merely go to My Courses, and you will have your curriculum. It's very slow, so don't be surprised if it runs a little pokey. You might want to, before class, to follow along, log in early, because it's very, very, very slow. That is a problem with it. I have not, supposedly, they're going to improve it with a new portal, but we'll see. So here is where I've only put in one key for that. You'll have 2. You'll have 1 and 2. You click on the link. It's all in HTML5, so you should have no problem. You don't need Java, anything like that. Here's the entirety of the curriculum I will be going through. Okay. Like I said, it's good for 6 months once you claim your keys and put them in. And today we're going to get started with Red Hat Enterprise Linux and one lab. I'm going to do accessing the command line. Okay. There will be quizzes in here. You do not have to take the quizzes inside of the Red Hat curriculum. Okay. Let me repeat that. You do not have to take those quizzes. You do have to take the quizzes that are in Canvas. So there will be there are Canvas quizzes. You need to take those. Those are all set up and ready to go. Okay, so you can take those. I've set the 2 of them for this week for tomorrow, just because I want you to get going. I haven't set the rest of them, but I expect that you will do them on a weekly basis. If you really want me to, I can set them to time box them, but I expect that you will do these quizzes every week. Okay. It's a lot easier because you'll fall behind quite quickly. All right. So just to go over everything one more time. Okay. Make sure you get the curriculum like I showed you. Make sure you try your NetLab, because you're going to need NetLab. Without NetLab, you're not going to be able to do the labs. Okay. So the curriculum, once you get it installed, this is what it's going to look like. Okay. You'll have 1 and 2. And then for NetLab, once you log in, I'm going to use the other browser. I'm using multiple browsers. You'll have to forgive me because I've had some trouble with Canvas in some of the browsers. So I'm going to log into NetLab. And you only have one lab to schedule. I have many to schedule. So you're going to get the Linux administration. We're going to start, you'll see something like this. You're going to start with RH124 and access Red Hat Lab content. There are 20 pods, which is plenty of time, plenty of space for everybody. I'm going to go on pod 22, and these are not persistent. You can take any pods you want. I'm going to do a quick one for, I'll go to 4. Give me 2 hours 32. Okay, okay. Now, what's interesting about this lab, let me give you the gotchas of using the lab. All right, these are uniquely designed. You're only going to see one machine. There's actually 4 machines, but you're only going to see one. This thing was designed with a running internal hypervisor. So it's actually a one machine hosting several machines. You'll only see one machine. Okay. The content is here on how to access that one machine. Okay, so let me go back here to the topology. I'm going to click on the machine. I'm going to undock it so that I can look at the content at the same time. Now, one thing to note, to prepare for this, they give you everything, and you'll do this each time you have to do a lab. You're going to log into this. The user is kiosk user, and you type Red Hat. Okay. And this machine is actually one machine that hosts multiple virtual machines. So once you log in, the key thing to note here, and this is where people constantly make this mistake. Okay, once everything's up and running here, it's still booting. Under activities, you go open a terminal and they take you through this. You type to RHT dash. They had custom wrote a piece of a script in here called Red Hat Virtual Machine Control Start All. This is in the instructions. It's the only instruction they give you. And it starts up all the servers. Okay. You now have an entire environment. You will not see them in the topology. If you look at topology, all you see is the one machine. Where they are is, if you go to the, they tell you if you go to, they basically don't want you to have to do it. You're going to SSH into them, but you can see them if you look at. They are just buried. So if you want to see them realistically, you go here, Applications, and if you look under Applications and go to Education, these are all the virtual machines you just started. Okay, so you've got the classroom one, you got the server A, server B, the workstation. So this is all running. Okay, so basically I can click on any one of them and it'll show me it booting. Okay, normally they just have you from the command line type in SSH to the device, but I can directly go into the device if I choose to by just clicking on it. This is buried under Show Applications. Okay, now when you're using NetLabs, just remember, so they give you the student user and the password is Red Hat, or it's student in this case. It'll be in the instructions in the curriculum. Yeah, it's student. It takes you into this virtual machine, and this is a workstation they have running. Okay, so just remember the instructions inside of NetLab are only to start the virtuals and get you into the system. After that, we're going to use the curriculum from Red Hat, and these labs are all mapped to this curriculum. I'm now in one of the VMs directly. Okay, so kind of cool. Okay, so it's one machine hosting various ones. Okay, the machine's still running in the background. So don't forget when doing your labs, you have to run to start all of the stations. You're basically going to work with those 3 stations, the workstation, the server A, server B. Okay, that's how we'll get the labs done. The topology, all you're going to see is one machine. That's how they designed a new Red Hat. Okay. All right, any questions about NetLab or getting the curriculum? just type them up in chat or. Okay. Those are all the steps you'll need to do. No questions? Pretty clear. You can always replay this video if you get lost. Okay. All right. So we'll get started. So the first, thing we talk about is what's Linux, and it's an operating system that's been around. It was for a while. Then Linus Torvalds is the gentleman who wrote it. It is a free operating system. So Linus Torvalds is the gentleman who wrote this as a computer science student when he was in college. He wrote this thing. He never thought it would be much, but this is what it accidentally just became. Very popular. Okay, it's been around for a long time. He wrote it many years ago, but it is not one that has got a company. It's developers around the world support it. As you know, the symbol for it's a penguin, and there's a whole history behind why it's a penguin, something that he got bit by a penguin or something. Anyways, Torvalds is the only person who can authorize changes to the main kernel of the operating system. Otherwise, you can do whatever you want to do. Okay, Michael Mag, you forgot your username and password. Your username is the first part of your email address, and I can reset your password to the proper name. Okay, I'll reset the password in a minute. Okay, your username will be that. Okay. So Torvalds has been around. He did 25 years in 2019. Now 26 years it's been around. It's an open source, meaning that anybody can modify it, except they can't distribute the kernel without his approval. The only thing about Linux, you go, well, Red Hat is a commercial product, but you're saying it's free. If you want support like Red Hat Linux support or other companies, they have a commercial branch which will sell you support. Otherwise, you're on your own. And there's many versions of Linux. So I just use the old Linux just as an example of, there's a lot of documentation out there on all the different types of Linuxes. We're going to use Red Hats in particular. And if you look under Distro Watch, you can see there are tons of versions of Linux out there. There are modifications. They go everywhere from, when Mint was #1, now MX Linux is #1. And these are all different flavors of Linux. They're usually either based on Debian, which is the oldest form of Linux, or Red Hat. Some people, Debian's probably is the oldest form of Linux. This was one of the original distros many years ago. And the other one, Fedora is the free version of Red Hat. All right, so for every paid version, there's a free version. Arch Linux is also popular. It's a variation. It doesn't really, it's not based on anybody. It's its own version. And sometimes you find Linux versions that are just based on their own design. They're not based on either Red Hat or Debian. They're just independent. They're their own version. Okay. So there's a lot of Linux out there, and what's nice about it, like I said, it's used mostly. Usually, Chromebooks are a variation on Linux. So Chrome OS, if some of you played with Chrome OS, it's just a variation on Linux that they use in Chromebooks. Okay, that's all it is. But Linux has been around and it's been in a lot of systems. There's a lot of positions for Linux people. Because there's not a lot of people who learn it. They just don't want to learn the command line. Your main web servers are usually Nginx or Nginx or Apache. Those are all Linux. There's not a lot of IIS servers out there. Main web servers. Let's see, web server, software share, market share. Most of it's Nginx is Apache's 36% of the web servers, which is it's running on Linux. Ninjinx 32%, and then it goes down from there. Notice IIS is very small in terms of usage or market shares of being used. So the big two Linux are most of them. Cloudflare is just particular. Cloudflare is used to protect to protect websites, particular as their main business. But their market share is really Ninjinx and Apache. Those are Linux-based distros. You can run Apache on Windows, but you generally don't. You just run these on Linux, and being able to manage the servers they run on is important. I did last year. I had a company come to me and actually work for them to interview candidates because they didn't have anybody who knew Linux internally. Inside a recruiter, so they wanted me to interview a bunch of candidates for them to see if they knew Linux enough to work for them, and I did that for them. It was kind of cool, but it's amazingly how there are people who actually spend time learning this, and it's important. It's a skill you'll find that you can use over and over, even no matter what profession you're in. Linux exists. It is a huge part of the market share. Windows is starting to embrace much of what Linux is because they're finding it's fairly useful. So a lot of their stuff is becoming that way, which I'm happy because a lot of their commands work really well when they're on Linux. So the course starts today, runs all the way till next till the end of the semester, December. Note we do not have class on Labor Day, so don't you get a day off from my ranting, so you can enjoy yourself. So feel happy. You don't have to hear me rant. You get that day off. I don't try to impose on your day. All right, so you get that day off. Oh, I see a lot of people registering, so I'm just going to go ahead and approve these real quick because I want you to get your curriculum. Save. I see a lot of people applying. Okay, and I'm just approving your sign-ups here. Not a problem. That's the one thing I hope the new system doesn't make me do 2 million times. This was annoying to do this constantly, but hopefully that they don't. It allows me to do it here. Let me do this, Adam. Let me go ahead and approve everybody here. I have to do this one individual at a time, so it takes me a minute or two. And approved. Okay. Got it. Okay. Good. All right. You're all set. All right. So let me go ahead and get running. Somebody can't join the meeting directly, and his name and password don't recognize. Okay, hold on a sec. All right, let me get this NetLab squared away real quick, and then we'll get started because people are having some challenges. Always the first day is always a challenge. I usually just do this in class, so let me get this squared away so everybody's happy. Here's me. Okay. All right. So my roster. All right. I'm Michael Mack. Okay. So Michael, let me fix you up right now. Your password will be password 123. The word password and the number is 123. I've just reset you. All right. And Menchie said that you can't access NetLab 1 username and password you don't recognize. Let me go here. And you're right here, CIMAM3. And you logged in back in 2019. I'm going to go ahead and reset your password. Password 123 and PASSWRD 123. PASSWRD 123. Submit. Okay, I've reset your password for you. You should be able to get in there now. Okay. You're welcome. All right, so everybody can get directed here. This is always fun. The first day is always a challenge. All right. So I did enter the lab, so I gotta find my lost waif here. And let me find my docket and undock it. Okay. There we go. Too many screens. Too many screens. I've got two monitors running simultaneously, and I still got too many screens going on. All right. Cool. All right. And one person can't find the WebEx link for some reason. It's not coming up. I am hosting, and I'll send a link. Copy. And for some reason, send. All right. I think I got everybody squared away right now. Hopefully. All right. Back to what I was doing. All right. So Linux, like I said, was invented by Linus Torvalds, and he did it as a project for college. He never thought anything would happen with it or make much of it, but that's what he did. And Linux has been around. It's been celebrating its anniversaries over 20 years, and it's basically an open source operating system you can port to. And what's neat about it is that you can modify as you wish and redistribute. Just can't modify the kernel without his permission. It is supported in the open source world by all the developers out there, which is good and bad. Is if they don't develop something, you're not going to be able to get you have to develop it yourself. This all goes with, well, Red Hat is a commercial, of course, version where you can get certified on Red Hat, RHCSA, Red Hat curriculum or Red Hat certification, and this is the actual official curriculum for it that we're doing. That's not what I want. Yeah, where's my, go back here. I have the official link. There, RHCSA, official link. This is the official link, and basically you can take this exam. It is one exam. Just note that this exam is a hands-on exam. All right, so you have to. There is no multiple tests or that. It's 2.5 hours to take it. It's a hands-on exam. They give you a list, and it covers everything in this course. So everything we do in this course, this entire RH1 and 2, would be on that exam. Okay. All right, so I can't access all the Red Hat website except for the Red Hat Learn website. It's saying the username and password. You need to go back and check when you registered if it matches correctly. I can't control that piece, Jacob. I'm sorry. If you're having trouble, you'll have to contact them. If you've registered, it should let you go into the web store. Okay. You said all except for the Red Hat Learn, saying the username and password is not recognized. It should allow you in. It shouldn't be a separate registration for that. It may take a minute. I'm not sure. Okay. That's why I don't like their system. I'm hoping their new one comes around. I wish I had a better answer. Okay, no problem, Alec. Okay. All right. So this exam, if you do decide to take it, it's everything that you cover in this curriculum, and then you do it as a practical. Like I said, it's 2.5 hours. You're given um, um, basically, what you want, what they need done, and you basically um, do it hands-on. You're not permitted for any books or any kind of internet searches. You basically got to know what you're doing. Um, this prohibits any notes, books, or anything. For most exams, you have to use the man pages, basically what comes with it. So you really need to know how to do all the different labs fairly well in order to do the exam. So it's kind of interesting. Okay. All right, back to let me reset one more password and we'll go from there. One more to go. Okay, back to my, this is undocked. Okay, got too much going on here. Let me get you back in. So, I do apologize. The first stage usually chaotic with trying to get everything working correctly. Um, Most of the time it works pretty well, but occasionally we have things that go wrong. Alright, let me get back into NetLab. Where's my NetLab? I got NetLab hanging out. On the Red Hat, what do I select? You select HTML. That's the free one. Okay, that's the one you select. Alright. Alrighty. I'm jumping around so much, I do apologize. I've got so many windows open that everything is a blur. Hold on a sec. Let me close up some of these windows. Alright, better. Now I'm not seeing 60 different screens going on. Alright. I'm going to launch. Okay, this one should be this. And I need NetLab back. I managed to close NetLab, which is pretty bad. I'm going to put it off to the side so I don't do that again. One thing I learned real quickly is I can't type. Okay, cool. Go back into my lab. There we go. There we go. Okay. Move this off so I can undock it. And we're good to go. Yay. 2 monitors is exciting. All right. So I'm in the Red Hat curriculum, and I'm going to go through. So basically, the first chapter, or the section number 1, talks about why you should learn Linux. And as I said, it's a very sought after skill. It's open source. You really do, you can actually code and rewrite pieces of it. There's different types of licenses. There's actually different types of open source licenses. And Red Hat is a commercial company. Basically, they sell you support. And enterprise is their big product. The equivalent in the world of freebies, if you want equivalent to Red Hat Linux or Red Hat Enterprise, is CentOS. That's the free version of this. CentOS is basically the free version of their product. And they walk you through community-based Red Hat Linux. CentOS is their open source Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So that's their equivalent. Okay. And you do not have to do this quiz. It's inside the curriculum. You can if you want to. I don't really care on that. And that's about it for that lesson. It's pretty simple. They just talk about what Linux is and what to do. The big thing we want to start with is learning the command line. So that's what we're going to work with now. So once you have, you're in NetLab and you have a console open and you've started your VMs, this is where the fun begins. All right. This is where we learn how to use it. All right. So one important thing is, so the goal here is to learn how to log in and work with Linux. So some basic stuff. Dang it. I hate the browser. It jumps. You know, that's one problem I've hated about Gilmore is they still jump around. The lab that you usually turn in me at the end, but I walk you through, explain everything to you. So hold on a second. I hate that it does that. I click somewhere and it just jumps. That's what really annoys me about this curriculum. All right. Okay, I don't care about that. Okay. So first thing they talk about when you talk about the command line is the bash shell. And the bash is the command prompt. Okay. So if you look, they're going to show you the basic command line. So let me go ahead and pull up my VM here. So here's your basic command line. Now I'm not going to mess with this kiosk, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on Activities. I'm going to go to the Show Applications where all the dots are. I'm going to go to Education, and I'm going to open up the workstation. All right, when I open a workstation, if yours doesn't log in, the password is student. This is the GNOME desktop, or what they call a GNOME desktop. And if you go, it has a pull-down menu, and you go to a terminal. This is the bash shell. Okay, so this $sign is significant. It means I'm a user. It means that is my level of privilege. I am just a user on this. I can't make any system-wide changes. So it limits to what this is the bash shell, but I'm not an administrator. Let's put it that way. So it's the very basic command line. I am not an administrator on here. I am basically just a user on the system. This is what we call a shell. Okay. So when we want to do something, we can simply type a command and an option, and it works. Okay, much like Windows, it works the same way in Windows Command Shell. So if I say IP address, okay, I hit enter and it gives me the IP address. So I give it a command. What do I want? I could say IP route, and it shows me what the routing table looks like. So IP is the command, and then I could say there's an option to it. All right. So any one of these commands, there is a lookup table. We're going to look up later, but if you get stuck on a command, it's always important to type MAN for manual, IP, and it'll tell me all the different ways I can use this command. Now, it's only as good as the amount of rights I have. So I can look at things, but I can't change things. Meaning, if I try to, make a configuration change using it, it won't let me. Okay, so I got IP hit it, does the same thing, and I need the option DHD IP details. IP details -H. Okay, IPD-D, sorry. Oh, it's supposed to be IPD. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, I gotta get it right. Oh, you gotta give it on the object. Never mind. I don't have an object to do it on. There's a limit to what it will let me do. So the options are -D as an option, but you gotta put -D on what? Okay, so that's what it is. So I'm gonna do, let's see, IP-D, I don't know, ADDR. Let's see if it works on it. So I can get more details about IP address. It gives me a whole bunch of jumps of everything that's there. It's kind of ugly. The output looks really ugly, but you can actually get more details if you type in -D with it. So if I say same command, up arrow works fine. Up arrow lets you repeat, and I say route. Give me details about the routing table. It tells me it's unicast, which ones are unicast, which are kernel source, as opposed to just type in IPD route, which gives you less details. So here's the detailed one. I did a detail on the route table. It tells me whether they're unicast or what they are. Here, it just gives me default route and a few other things, but a little more details. So you have options you can add, and you act upon something. So that's the general frame of how you do commands. Now, like I said, you can do a lot with it based on your level of privileges. Like in Windows, as a user, you can't install apps. In here, you can't install apps as well. So if I tried to, I typed exit to get out of there. If I said yum install cowsay, say, if I tell it to do that, it'll say can't be run under only has to be run under use. A user can't install apps. So the idea is to understand your level of privilege. So a $sign means you're just a user. That's the first part. Okay. And then they introduce what's called the GNOME, and this is the GNOME desktop. GNOME is much pulled down. Reminds me a lot of Apple, but you can pull all your apps down from here. You can explore your doing. You have a top bar that gives you activities. This bar is actually movable. You can change positions if you like them in different places. You can drag things around. You can move things around. You can do a lot with it. There are multiple settings you can do with it where you want things. You can move regions, backgrounds, you can change. Um, it's configurable. You say, Kevin, what do you mean by it? Why is there, you said there was no GUIs in Linux. Well, on a server, there isn't. The desktop was around to kind of help you. Um, um, the desktop was there to make it more accessible to people for a desktop. But generally, servers do not have GUIs. You only get a command prompt. There's no GUI there. You only get this. The reason they made the GUI is to make this more accessible so people would adopt Linux. Though, in some places they are, some places they aren't. You really have to want to learn the interfaces and how things move around. It's not a bad, operating system to play with. It's just different. So, so they take you through the basics of GNOME. That's not the only desktop that Linux supports, but GNOME is what they've got loaded. Okay. So we're going to try a very simple uh, workstation thing. We signed in, and we're going to change the password for the student. Now we know the password for the student is student, okay, because that's how I logged into this. So the password to get into workstation is student. How I got into workstation, I'll close it up again. Okay, is I went to on the main kiosk box that is in the lab. I went to applications, I went to education, and I double clicked on VM workstation. Now this was here, but it wasn't logged in. I'm going to log out. I'll do it again just to show you that it would come up like this if I normally would hit it. So if I went to the main kiosk, I started all my virtuals, I clicked here, clicked on education, workstation. It says, what is the password? I would type the word student. And, I didn't type student correctly. Helps if I type it correctly. And it'll log right in. And now I have the GNOME desktop. Now it wants me to open up a terminal. So under activities, I'm going to open a terminal. Okay, and it wants me to change my password. You can change your password. You can't change anybody else's password, but you can change yours. The command for password is PASSWD. Okay, that is the command you would use to change your password. If you just type that and type enter, it says changing the password for user student because that's who I'm logged in as. And they give me in the lab, they give me a password to use. It's 55 turnkey 3. I'm going to just use I'm going to say student and student. I'm just changing it to the same password. It says it's the same password as the old one, you dummy. All right, so let's go ahead and change it. Okay, so I'm going to change it to password 123 and password 123, and it says authentication token manipulation error. You evil person, because I'm not using the proper. That's a very bad password, so let me do it. So let me clear the screen. I'll use what you said. Leave me alone. Okay, so I'm going to say, it's because I typed it wrong. So it says, give me the current password, student. That's why I just typed it right. And then password 123. It's based on a dictionary word. Can't do it. All right. I have to use some goofy one. All right. So I have to use the one they gave me in a lab. So I've been trying to be cute. So type in my current password as student. And it's funny because it allows the word student as its main one. And it says use the number is 55, and all I'm doing is following along uh, inside the lab, and it says type that again. So I'm just following what the lab tells me. It says updated appropriately. So then it says, what do you want to do? Well, go ahead and log in and log out. So you go to student user, up in the right hand corner there's a login and log out, and you just log out, and it's just to show you how to change your password. Click now, and if I try the word password, if I try the word student, it has been changed, so it should fail. So I type student, and it says, no, that doesn't work anymore. But if I use the new password that I just used, 55, turn K3Y, and sign in, it should allow me in. Yep, and the password changed. So we're back to, where we're supposed to be. So we were able to unlock and use the key. Okay. The other thing it tells you is you want the lock the screen, you can do so. You can go up here once again. And supposedly student user, let's see. They oh no, there it is. The icon is called lock screen. So I could actually hit the icon and now lock the screen. Now it says to get back in you have to type 55 turn K3Y and unlock the screen. It's simple task, but they want you to be checking it. Okay, they just want you. And then you could verify what you did by opening up a terminal and say lab. Let's see. What do they want us to do? Do the turn key, lock the screen, and then run lab CLI dash desktop finish, and this is just so you can practice with the getting in and out of it. You won't have to change your password on it. So I can't type desktop finish. Says success. You reset your student password. You're good. And that was it. That was a simple one to do. All right. Those are some of the preemptive exercises you do just to get used to how things work. You can actually do a couple things. So I'm just going to leave it like this. Say, like, you could ask, who am I? Which I often ask, who am I? Tells you you are the student. And you can actually string commands together. So if I want to know, so if I type date, it tells me the current date. So I could say, who am I, semicolon, and date. And it says I am the student, and there's a date. So you can string commands together. So some simple commands, you can string them together. You can also specify some specific arguments depending on the command. So if I just type the word date, it gives me the current date. But I say I want just the time. So there's actually a way, if I say plus, and this is in the documentation, so you don't have to memorize it. Plus R, it says it's 1855. What I'm telling it is give me just the field here. Just give me that field and tell me what the date and time is. Or, and this is once again, this is in the manual pages. Plus %X, and that gives me the date in a specific form, a specific format form, which is today's date in numeric form. And like I said, you can look these up in the manual page, and it gives you how to format the strings and what different ones will do. Date of the month, month of the year, full date, $F, okay, year of ISO week number, just the year, $J. So you can actually string things together and do some very fancy formatting. Cool. All right, cool. All right. So I see Okay. All right. So just so you know, and we did the PSS D file, which is interesting. Another command that's also useful is if you don't know if it's a command or a file, and just remember, Linux is a file system of files. It's not like Windows. Windows is a GUI. This is really not a GUI. It has a nice GUI face if you want it. It's not. It's optional, but you can actually ask it. What is this? Because there's two types. There's actually a file called PSSWD. Okay. And there's a command called PSSWD. If I type that, it says that's an ASCII file. Yep, that is an ASCII file. However, there's also a command that we just used to change our password. And that is a command or a binary. And notice it says, I am in a binary file, which means you're not editable. Okay. So there's two different um, ways to do commands. All right, so some are commands, some are files. All right. Also, we can look inside of files. We can use cat to look inside that PSSWD. This happens to be the password file. It has all the accounts on the system. It does not have passwords in it, contrary to what it means. The passwords are not stored in this file, but it shows you that these are all services because they have no logins except for the student account. So the student account is actually a real account, and it logs in using the bin bash shell or bash shell. These are not people, these are services, so they don't log in. Okay. And you can merge files. You can look at multiple files at once if you want. So I could do cat slash etc slash I don't want to do that, but you can concatenate files together. I know that. Let's do. Okay, you can cat slash etc slash PASSWD, and I can look at the. It won't let me look at the shadow file. It's going to give me an error because I'm not an admin. What can I look at? I can look at multiple files at once, but I have limited control here. Let me make two files. Touch file 1 and file 2. I'm just going to make two files for fun. Touch creates a file. So I should have two files now. Yep. And I'm going to say echo. This is just for fun. This is not in the lab. Echo hello into file 1. Just showing you because they don't have it set up to this. Echo there into file 2. Okay, and then I can cat file 1, and file 2, and it shows you hello there. So you can look at the contents of two files simultaneously. I just did that for fun. You also can use, if a file is really long, because when we did addcat and we looked at the password file, it's pretty long. Okay, but if I want to just see the top of it, just the first 10 entries, I could say head on slash etc slash PASSWD, and that gives me the first 10 lines. Conversely, if I want to see the last 10 lines, I could type tail on that same file, and it'll show me the last 10 lines of that file. So you can do head and tail to show you the back and forth on that file. You also can get, what's kind of neat is, since this is a file system of files, meaning it's text-based, if I type word count, which is WC, I can get a word count on how many words, how many letters, how many lines there are in a file. And I could say, give me how many lines, how many words, how many bytes, and it tells you. So actually you can get that information by simply typing word count. Okay, kind of cool. You can get the list of how long things are, number of lines, number of words, and number of characters. Also, what's nice in Linux, if you can't remember, I know it was PAS tab. If and if I type tab, it'll say, "Oh, those are all the uh, words that begin with that." Okay, so it shows you everything that begins with PAS. Just hitting tab twice. Also, if you do if you've done a previous command, the up and down arrows will work. So you can go right through all the commands you've ever typed. Okay. The tab is your friend, and the up and down arrows are your friend. They help you find things and work through things. So just keep that in mind. Tab completion and up and down works wonders. So like if I do list, ls means list. It's like directory, etc slash pas tab. It completes it for me. If that's the only one there, it's cool, and it just lists that there is a file in there called that. So those are pretty cool. You can do quite a bit with that. You could also look up different arguments of like the user add, and if I do dash dash and I can't remember all the commands, I hit tab twice, it shows me all the options I could add without having to go to the man page. So if you type a command dash dash and hit tab twice, it tells you all the commands you could actually add. You can also, a weird one, though you might not think it's weird, but sometimes a command is very long. I mean, very, very long. And you can use a wraparound. All right, so you can basically wrap the prompt around. We'll use that later, but basically the wraparound is this character. It's the slash this way. That is for when you have a very long string, you can wrap it around. So if I said head dash 20, and I say, oh, head, I want the first 20 lines, and then I could put this wraparound, it'll open a little prompt, and I could say, because I don't want to type any longer on that line, I could say do that and hit enter. It does it for me. It's a wraparound command. So I was able to wrap the command. Normally I would just type head minus n20 slash etc blah blah blah. Well, maybe I just want to wrap the command around. That's what that's for. And it said give me the first 20 lines. So there is a wraparound ability. The one you're going to use quite a bit in this class is history. So one thing you're going to give to me is a screenshot of the history. When you type history, like so, it gives you a history of every command you've typed so far. All right, so we're going to use that in class because you're going to give me, when you do the final lab, you're going to give me a history, a screenshot of all your history, and that's what you're going to submit to me so I know you did the lab. Okay, so history is very useful. You can actually clear your history. If you do history -C, like so, and I type history again, you'll find that history is gone. I just cleared it. Okay, so, all right. So those are some of the basic move around commands, or basic commands in the command line that we get used to. All right, so I'm going to move on, and we're going to do an actual lab. And this is a lab we're going to turn in. So this is the only lab you're going to do for today. But before I do that, I'm going to take 2 minutes. I have to reset somebody's NetLab, and I need about another minute to go drink some water because my coffee's not working. So give me 2 minutes, and then we'll do the lab together, and I'll show you what to upload. Okay, so give me 2 minutes. I'm going to mute myself while I change this. All right. All right, so I've approved 2 people already that sent in through their things. So the reset is complete. The default password is the word password, the number is 123 for anybody who. All right, so the default password is password 123. If I reset your password, it will be that. Okay, so here's a lab you're going to turn into me. So when you All right, so when you're in that lab, it's the last lab, and it usually says in this lab, and these are what usually, this is what you usually turn into me, is you're going to complete this lab, and then turn in the history, or a screenshot of the history. So, here's how I do it. So I'm going to do it live for you, and all I'm going to do is follow along the curriculum. So the first thing they tell you is make sure you're in the workstation. Okay, so more resets. Okay. 1 second. I hate resetting everybody at once. I just reset it, Amanda. I literally just reset it. Okay, hold on. Oh, okay. Hold on a second. I will reset some passwords, and then I will do this last lab. Da, da, da. Your login is your first half of your email address. Okay. All right. So, just so everybody remembers, the login is the first half of your email address before the @ sign. Okay. And the default password is password 123. Okay. Amanda, I reset yours. Denisha, he says, Alec, you're down. Okay, Denisha, you still need a reset? Oh, you don't. Okay, cool. All right. Okay, cool. All right. We're cool then. All right. Woo. All right. So I'm here. All right. Okay. It's always confusing the first day because there's so much going on. Okay. So here's how we do this. So I'm on the workstation. Okay. And I'm just going to follow along lesson 7. This is what you would turn into me. Okay, so the first thing they have you do is run a clip. So it's lab CLI dash review start. So this is a little script they have. What this does is it preps the machine. So it cleans up the lab and gets the lab ready for your for your environment. So command number 1 they give you. Okay, so they told you type. Okay, cool. Type the word date. It's the first thing they said, so they can look at it. So there's date, gives you today's date. Okay, they say now we want to look at using the format string to put out the time of day only. Okay, so we want to look at it from the time of day only in 12-hour time instead of military time, because right now it's in military time or 24-hour clock time. So if you type date plus and %R puts it out in 7:15:48 p.m. Okay, just ignore the fact that the clock on the lab is off. Okay, so it converted it from 24-hour clock to 12-hour clock, which is hilarious. Anyways, okay. Then it wants you to um, it installed a file called Zote, supposedly. So it says type file, and I'm just following along with the lab. File. First, I want you to say what kind of homes is it readable by. Use the file to determine its file. So it says, oh, it's a typo. It's zcat, not Zote. Sorry. Type zcat. So file zcat. It doesn't. So it says it's a shell script and it's executable. So they told you that's what it is. Okay. Then we want to see how big that script is. So we want to do word count. Okay, of how big this thing is. To word count. On Zcat. And it should tell you it's 51 lines, 299 characters, and 1,983 bytes. Okay, so it's pretty long. Next thing it says is let's take a look at the head of the file, and they want you to try to use escape plus. Now I don't usually do that um, inside of virtual because things go bad, so I just type it out. So I'm going to do the head of Zcat. These are the first 10 lines of the file. Those are the first 10 lines of that file. So basically, it's a compressional logarithm script. Okay, and they want you to do the last 10 lines. So it says do tail on that same file. Zcat. So those are the last 10 lines of that file. And that file is 51 lines long. And so it says repeat the previous either using up or down arrows. Key twice to scroll back to the command, one command, and press this. So they want you to play around the fact that you can use the up arrow to go ahead and rerun commands. So they want you to play around with it. Up arrow, and I can do up arrows. Okay, so I can do up arrow till I can rerun commands. So what they're showing you is that the history is kept, and that I can play back and forth with it, no problem. And then it says, and then it also tried if I do exclamation exclamation, it reruns the most recent command. All right, so they try to make it easy for you to kind of get the idea. You can use the up arrow, the down arrow. You can also use Control A. If it had a previous command, let's see, they want you to do tail minus N20 on Zcat. Gives you the last 20 lines of it. Okay, so they're just playing around the up and down arrow. And then it says use the shell command history to run the same date command again. So you go all the way up, go here, enter. You don't have to retype it. Okay. You also, what's kind of neat, if you do history, like so, shows you all the commands you did, and then you can basically do a percent pound sign, and I could say rerun, I don't know, 3, which is the date command. It'll rerun the command from the history list. So if I do a command sign, I could say 4. So exclamation 4 will rerun a command out of history. And then we do lab CLI-review and we grade it. Make sure we did everything. It says everything's good. All right, cool. This is nice. So now the lab is actually complete. So what we do is we reviewed it. It says gave us a pass. You will snapshot this. So you can use any one. You can use Control Print Screen. If you got Windows, you can use the snipping tool. If you have a snipping tool, okay, you can get any number of tools. Do not use your phone. Use any kind. You can use TechSmith. TechSmith has a free one called Capture you can use. And I want you to basically capture the screen so I can see you did the lab like so. And you take capture it, and now you have it, and save it with your name, okay, and So so make sure you save it with your name. So put your name or your initial, your name in there, so I know it's you. Save it as a JPEG. You may want to say which lab it's for. That would be useful. Um, okay. And then what I want you to do is in um, the in I got too many windows open. In NetLab, or not in NetLab, in the actual curriculum in Canvas, you will upload that image to me that you just saved, that PNG. So go to Canvas, like so. And in your Linux administration modules, there's an assignment up here under Chapter 2. It says there's accessing the command line 1 point. Click on that. You're going to get an upload button. I don't get the upload because I'm a teacher, but you will have an upload button. Click upload, or I'll make it so you can see it. I'll switch to a student view so that everybody can see it. So my view will become your view. Canvas is running a bit slow today, so just bear with me. They've already informed me it's running slow. Oh, it's already running real slow. Alright, it's running so slow it's getting errors. Student view. Hang on. Let's see if I can switch to student view pretty quickly. Eventually this will work. La 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 la. There we go. So now I'm in student view. So I see what you see. So under modules. Lordy, this is slow. And we're going to go down to, here's your lab, accessing the command line, and then you'll see submit assignment, and choose the file that you just downloaded, which would be your PNG, and upload it to me. That way I can see that you've done the lab and everything is hunky-dory. Okay. Also, after you've done that lab, remember you have 2 quizzes this week. You need to get the one for Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 complete. Okay. And that's it for it. It's pretty easy. Okay. Next week we'll start doing more. We'll do chapters 3 and 4 next week. Once again, I'll go through. I'll do the labs with you. You can feel free. You could save the history, the screenshot, and then upload them and get them done. So I do. Usually that's how I run the course, and then I explain what's going on so you understand it. Okay. You can make sure you get access to the curriculum, so it'll make it easier for you to understand what I'm talking about. And I do add things in there as we go along. So occasionally you'll run across stuff where I've added something that wasn't in the original lab just because I want to explain the context that we're in. Okay. And some of the labs sometimes are a little goofy, so that's why I make sure that I walk through them with you. All right. Any questions? Make sure you got the you know how to get the Red Hat curriculum. You know how to get into NetLab. You know what's expected every week. Okay. Don't fall behind. And like I said, anytime you have a question, just feel free. My office hours are generally 8 to 9 in the morning. However, you can always contact me. The easiest way to contact me is by email. Just send me an email. I'll post the class recording for today. Once I save it, I'll put the link up in right under modules. There'll be a class recording link, so you can always replay it in case you get stuck on anything. Okay. Just to note, I don't have control over the Red Hat site, so if you forget your password with Red Hat, you're going to have to deal with them. The only thing I can reset is NetLab. I don't have any control over Red Hat. Red Hat has its own controls. Okay. Alrighty. If nothing else, going once, going twice. Sold American. All right. Everything's sold. All right, cool. All right, so I will meet with you next week. Make sure you do your lab, um, and make sure you get your curriculum, and we should be good to go. All right. If anything, just let me know. Everybody stay safe and have a great rest of your day.